All right, we're here. I'm just checking on the comments thing. I think that's how it needs to be. All right, welcome to the Pig and Whistle Simak group. The Pig and Whistle was started by our good friend Shawn Standfast, who's here with us in a magazine cover. He actually made that cover. So anyway, it's great. So we've continued reading these Simak books, about one a month, and we are currently on this one. Why Call Them Back from Heaven? Oh, look at that. 3 different covers.
Well, I think mine's the same as yours. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, there we go. Yeah, you're right. It is. Yeah. That's a gorgeous cover, Pat.
Yeah. I like this a lot.
Yeah, this one's just kind of some random artwork, but yours seems to have something to do with what's going on.
Yes, exactly. All these frozen bodies. Yep.
Yes, frozen bodies. Yeah, so this book was written in published in 1967. So let's see the order here. They Walked Like Men, and then there was a few. Way Station, All Flesh is Grass, The Werewolf Principle, then this one, Why Call Them Back from Heaven, followed by The Goblin Reservation. So we're kind of in a very interesting part of Simak's career here. Now, this one was very different from all the others, I thought. Brandy's here. Hello, Brandy.
Hi, Brandy.
Hi, Brandy.
Yeah, so I'll let you guys say what you thought of it. I did like it. It was almost, it felt like almost an attempt at a literary novel. I mean, it was rich with symbolism. The plot is almost irrelevant. It seemed it's like a vehicle for him to explore this concept of everybody, when they die, gets frozen to be resurrected later. So I'll stop there without describing too much of it. But that's the way it felt to me. When I was reading it, there wasn't a heck of a lot of plot. It was like an exploration, I would call it, or thought experiment, just delving into this idea and what it would do to society. And then we have the corporation, which he returns to all the time, that is not truthful, and those kind of tropes. But overall, I liked it because of the ideas. I liked the exploration. So, Gavin, what were your initial thoughts?
I thought, it was a very original take on the overpopulation theme, which does turn up a lot in science fiction. And having sort of recently done a book about overpopulation, and obviously you've got some classics in that as well, stuff like Make Room. I think this was a very Simak spin on that.
Mm-hmm.
And it does, it's like I say, it's about how it impacts society. He is always looking on the impact on the populace of his science fiction ideas, usually via the medium of some kind of corporate entity.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we do get that again. But you also have that science and religion tension, which we have seen before in his books. But you're right, it is a bit more. It's certainly not as pulpy, it's not as noirish as some of the others have been. I loved the flitting between different characters, and slowly, some of these pairings of characters will come together. But not in every case, but what you do see is just how the same way of living has impacted everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to think what it was a metaphor for, and I was struggling. There's a little bit like saving for your old age, and actually sort of denying yourself a life at the time in thinking about the hereafter, whether that is from a commercial way with the Forever Company here, or actually from a religious standpoint, where you will be in denying yourself, pleasures of the flesh, what have you, in order for that life hereafter. Yeah, but yeah, it was. I did like how it was all brought together, because it happened very quickly at the end. 20 pages out, you would still be wondering.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Okay, Pat, what are your initial thoughts?
I liked it. I liked it very much.
Good.
I thought it felt different. It felt a little bit. I mean, there were certainly familiar themes and tropes, but it felt different to me from some of the other Simaks that we've read together. Certainly very philosophical, I thought. I thought that it was darker than some of the things that we've read. I mean, there was a real, there were some very difficult things, that happened to our I guess our main character. I mean, there are several, but I guess to Dan Frost, I mean, he really, he goes through some pretty awful stuff, and it felt very hopeless at times, like I didn't see how this was all going to, to come together, and how he was going to get out of this. And that didn't feel quite as much like some of the other Simaks that we've read. I also liked the many different threads, all these different people who had fallen away from the Forever Company or the Forever Center and on their own for different reasons. I also got a little confused sometimes about some of these side stories and who was who and what it was that they were standing for. But I did like Gavin said, how it all kind of comes together very quickly at the end. And I liked, again, that he gave such positive roles to two female characters. I like the Anne Harrison character, even though, we only see her a couple of times. I liked her, and I liked the Mona Campbell character as well. So.
Yeah. So Brandy, sorry, she asked, is this a fix-up novel? No, it was not.
No.
We're sort of going all the way back to something like the Cosmic Engineers with a female scientist or mathematician in this case.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So by way of quick summary, so in this world, it's in the 2100s, and the biggest influence in the world is this Forever Center, who has convinced everyone that of a real resurrection. I mean, of a genuine scientific resurrection rather than a religious hope for one. So what happens is when you die, you get your body frozen, and someday in the future you will be resurrected. And that's where the overpopulation thing starts to come in as well, because when they start to resurrect everybody, where are they going to put everybody is a large question. And I remember one of the corporate guys saying, well, we just need to figure out time travel. That'll fix it, as if that's nothing, right? But one of the things that is a problem is that we quickly realize that the Forever Center actually has no idea how to resurrect everyone. And that's what our main character, Dan Frost, he is a worker at the Forever Center. I would say a genuine believer in that whole thing. And he starts to discover throughout the book that, they don't know. This technology doesn't actually exist. It's something that I would say that the good people in the Forever Center have genuine hope of figuring out, but the whole world is in. The whole world is in. And then it talks about what the implications of that are. And like we've alluded to, one of the things is, when you're resurrected, you want to have the means to live a good life. So therefore, people are pushing away all kinds of things in order to try to build wealth enough that they will be rich when they're resurrected. And that becomes pretty much the main focus of many, many people's lives.
Right.
And then there are two main groups of opposition One of them's called the Holies, who are holding on to religious tradition. And then the other one is called the Loafers, who reject all of it, and they say we're not doing any of this. I'll go hang out in the forest or something like that. We don't get the impression that these two groups are large. In fact, I think one of them said it's like 0.5% of the population are loafers. And so Dan Frost, having discovered this document, is now on the run. The folks from the Forever Center are after him. They don't want that to be released. This person, I think her name was Mona. Was it Campbell?
Mm-hmm.
Mona Campbell, right, has disappeared from the company. And this, again, is not something. Dan and Mona are not together for a long time in the book. But Mona has discovered, I'm trying to remember actually how that went. Somehow they got this
branch of mathematics from on another planet, Hamal maths,
right? But somehow, how did she get it? I don't recall how she got it, because it wasn't through an encounter with an alien, right? It was somehow.
One of the other things they're doing, as well as time travel, is they're trying to find other habitable planets to move people to. Right. And they found this planet where a race used to be and has died, but the planet isn't habitable. But they found all of the records, so they've been deciphering those, and she has used that mathematics in order to try and further the time travel project.
Right. And has discovered some basic things about the universe through it. So Mona's a mathematician, and she's discovered some things, and her reaction was to just get the heck out of there and try to almost meditatively get somewhere where she can shut down all the outside noise and make sure she has it right and think about this stuff. And then there's Anna. Remind me of her last name, Pat.
Ann Harrison.
Ann Harrison, right. So she's a lawyer, I believe, who has there's a point at which Dan gets ostracized, which is very 1984-ish, it felt. He's, because of his crimes, he now actually gets marks on his face, and people in society are forbidden to give a person with those marks any kind of assistance whatsoever.
Right.
So that's it. That's pretty much the gist of it. Anything else you'd want to add to a quick synopsis? I've even stepped further into spoiler territory than I maybe should have, but that's okay.
No, I think that pretty much sums it up. Yeah.
Yeah. We have a question here from Brandy real quick. So when was it written? Was it the beginning or during that fad? Yes, this is cool that she brings that up, because I looked up some contemporary reviews because I was very curious. Both Harry Harrison and Judith Merrill. The book was written in 1967, by the way. But both of them mentioned that it was current thinking, this freezing yourself and being resurrected later. So this is from Amazing Stories in 1967. This is Harry Harrison. He says, what he has done and why call them back from heaven is explore in good SF extrapolary fashion the possible results of the present day movement to deep freeze us all after death, then stack us away like so many frozen kippers until the time in the bright future where we might be revived and cured. Mm-hmm. And then Judith Merrill is actually on the back of my copy here. She says, extremely provocative, deals with the effect on society of the kind of deep freeze potential immortality we have heard so much about recently. So there's something going on in 1967 where this is a pretty common subject, I guess.
There was always, I'm sure it's nonsense and apocryphal, but there's always the rumor about Walt Disney being
That's
frozen.
what I was just thinking.
And he died in 66.
Okay.
66 or 67. So
yeah,
maybe they just pinned that rumor on him because it was a bit voguish at the time.
Yeah, maybe so.
But he is the person I always think of when I think about this, because I mean, that was my childhood, and I remember that. I remember everybody saying that about him. That's
me too.
I think of when I think of this, this the idea of this
Mhm.
process.
Bit
Yeah.
shocked he does come back. More for him than us, I think, probably. But
Oh, Brandy says there's a TNG episode on it.
Huh.
Yeah.
well,
Very
yeah, I
good.
mean, I suppose it's a science fiction staple, isn't it? You have to put people into cryogenic stasis, hypersleep, whatever you want to call it,
Mhm.
you know, to get them from A to B when you can't get past the immense length of time it actually takes to get from A to B in, you know, a sci-fi novel.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, you know, what Simak supposes that society would do in reaction to this is very interesting. And I like what Gavin, what you had to say at the beginning about the whole thing possibly being a metaphor for, you know, religion, the reaction of some religious folk to not live their life in full in order to try to achieve an afterlife. You know, so this idea of a scientifically proven or a science, you know, a genuine secular way to achieve immortality, and everybody takes in and believes that, and their reaction then is, well, I'm living for my second life, you know, and there's constant examples. I really liked, you know, those asides from characters, some of which we don't see again, right? Every now and then there'd be a little snippet of something, just of watching people live and, you know, what their choices are and what they're doing. And then, you know, the biggest metaphor to me, the biggest symbol was this guy Ogden trying to keep the cross up on his little sandy island. You know, the cross keeps falling down. You know, that was a pretty obvious symbology there. And then his story to me was fascinating all the way to the end of his little journey, where he digs in. He's trying to keep that cross up, man, right? Which is, you know, it's a metaphor for, you know, the spiritual life, and, you know, everyone forgetting that exists and moving on without it and not trying to experience that anymore, because of this immortality can be achieved elsewhere or otherwise. But then he discovers riches, you know, as he's trying to plant this thing, and he discovers these ivory little statues.
So yeah, it is that classic idea of temptation.
Mm-hmm.
You have one character who's after those figures. He has the treasure map, and he is looking for that to be his meal tickets in the next life.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have this hermit who, you know, ironically, because he's trying to dig a deeper foundation for his crucifix, discovers the treasure and he is tempted.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And he has, you know, that is a proper crisis of faith. That is,
yeah.
I mean, he's on a sandbank, but okay, you could say, you know, he's out in the desert being tempted. It's about as basic as the symbolism gets, really.
Yeah, right.
I thought it was really interesting that Simak decided to end the novel with him also, you know, because we have this, you know, kind of almost happy ending in chapter 36. You know, there is a sense of resolution when Dan is kind of rescued at the last minute, and, you know, Anne and Dan are reunited, and there's almost, you know, there's kind of the implication of a love story that's about to emerge. And you think, oh, you know, happy ending. And then there's like 2 more pages. There's another chapter.
Mm-hmm.
We go back to Ogden, and it's very dark. I mean, there's no happy ending there. I didn't think.
It makes it more realistic because,
yeah.
I mean, like you said, the book is very dark. Dan, even after all the trials and tribulations he goes through, and now when he even has the ultimate knowledge that Mona has imparted to him, goes back to work for the company that are doing all of this. And at no point does he ever doubt the company. Oh, it's just a few, you know, it's a few bad eggs that have done this to me. And he misses the bigger picture entirely.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I'm surprised that not more people figure out how unworkable this whole thing is, because it's like you said, people are denying themselves in the present. They're all living in squalor whilst these brand new high rises are being built for people who are, on ice. And how the people think that by saving a few stamps or statues or stock options in the 30 or 40 years of their working life are going to provide for them in an eternal retirement, because none of them are coming back and thinking, right, well, I'm going to be resurrected and I'm going to carry on working again. They're always like, well, I'm going to come back and it's going to be margaritas at 5.
Yeah, and it's a direct contrast to the Christian message too, because you can't take it with you is what most religions teach, right? And in this case, we're gathering everything we can.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That used to be the case with. I did. I think Pat, you did as well.
Yes, they did.
Yeah. 3 for 3. Good.
With sorry, where was I? I was going to say
talking about. I said something about the Christian message. Being you can't take it with you.
Right.
Yeah. So the in the past, you used to have incredibly wealthy people, but they would live by that message. It doesn't matter whether they were Christians or not. A lot of religions had the same thing. So immensely powerful people and wealthy people would spend their wealth. This is why you have, from the monuments in Egypt or Rome, right up until, the places in New York built by the people who made their money in the Gilded Age. The libraries, the museums, what have you, they've got their names plastered on them. Whereas these days people aren't doing that. They're just hoarding it for something or other, usually to fund the space program.
Yeah. And but you're right. I mean, it would take a lot of faith to assume that, when you are resurrected in this secular way, that the system's going to be the same and your money's going to work and all that stuff. Yeah, which they're well on their way for that not to be true. As it doesn't seem to be public information that, well, where are we going to put everybody when we resurrect everyone, and that they haven't got that worked out.
Right.
But you're right. They got to find other planets or do time travel or something. But just the nonchalance where I think his name was BJ, was like, we just need to figure out time travel. I mean, let's just do that.
Problem solved.
I don't know. That does sound like a CEO.
Yes, it does. Yeah, we'll just do that.
There's it's very darkly humorous piece at the beginning. Just another little vignette of people we never meet again, of a couple who are being sold a parcel of swampland.
Oh yeah.
On the promise that the earth, when they come back, is going to be so crowded that people will live anywhere. And they're putting their life savings into it.
Yeah. Yep.
So everyone is constantly either buying stock or buying goods, living a life of poverty as a result. But a few people who do know what the score is are absolutely benefiting from all of this.
All of it.
Right.
Yes, that's right. And then that scene at the very beginning in the courtroom where the punishment was, you will not be resurrected. No other punishment, just you will not be resurrected. Go ahead and go about your life.
Right.
That was interesting.
It's like, this is a death sentence.
Yeah.
And it's just, you're free to go, but you are going to die. And
right.
I mean, the system obviously buys into believing it as well.
Yeah. And the other aspect is that immortality is actually not immortality, because when people die in the book, during the events of the book. If they die in a certain way, like their brain is damaged, or somebody got shot in the head, and that person's not resurrectable, right? So even after resurrection, the possibility of accident or murder or something like that is still present. You're not guaranteed to live forever anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's not invulnerability. It's,
right.
It's theoretical immortality. But
Yeah.
I mean, on the other hand, it's had some good impacts as well. There have been no wars because no one's going to be stupid enough to get themselves killed.
Yes.
Right.
Right. In fact, somebody says that was the point of the Forever Center, and the secret point of the Forever Center was to stop war.
I like the fact that Simak sort of gives the case, the pro case to the evil corporation.
Yeah.
Good point. Yeah.
I thought it was interesting too, with just starting with these two very scary trials, that sort of felt like something out of Kafka, actually.
Yes.
And Dan Frost, he doesn't know what he's done. He doesn't even know he's on trial. I mean, he's asleep through the whole thing, and he wakes up and he finds he's been convicted, of treason. Is that what?
Yeah, some close enough. Yeah.
And his punishment is this awful ostracism, but they assume that he will give himself over to death to get out of this, because there's no way to live this way if you can't interact with others, and how do you get food? How do you live like this? So they are assuming that he'll go and sign himself up for death, so he can get to the next life, because this is going to be hell on earth.
Yeah. And he doesn't do that.
He does not.
Yeah.
I mean, and you talk about the sort of the literary aspects of it. I mean, that definitely was. I mean, that is very Hawthorne, getting branded and being ostracized as a result. Yeah. Or that's the physical manifestation of your ostracism.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So he grows a beard, and which covers that up, but there's always people willing to help. He didn't want for that. There's a guy at a cafe feeding him every day, and he just led this monk-like existence or hermit-like existence for a while, and then we got to the end. The last 20 pages, like you said, where everything came together. But yeah, so another, we've mentioned this before, but this math, the Hamal math. Simak returning again. This is something that he does a lot, is information coming from outside. But this Hamal math told Mona some basic things about the universe as she worked things out, and time travel was not possible according to this new mathematics that she was using. She was able to figure out, well, that's not possible. And not only that, but there was an interconnectedness of things that I think Simak returns to as well, that not only includes like matter and energy, but also life. And that's something that I really like about Simak, is this. I find that a very hopeful, beautiful thing that he sometimes touches on, this interconnectedness of all things, including life, and the respect for life that he brings to stuff. But I thought that was great. It was a kind of a cool invention, even though, and he does this a lot where, he says, I'm trying to remember which book it was, where there was like a philosophy. Oh, it was City, wasn't it? Where there was a philosophy that transcended everything. But Simak doesn't touch on what that is, because how could he, right? But he just says it exists. And the same thing with this math. He says this math is telling us this. I can't tell you anything about the math because, again, Simak wouldn't be able to do that. But that it exists is something he seems to believe in, so much that it pops up all the time.
Yeah.
This idea that something can come from the universe that would help us transcend our current situation.
yeah, you do get stuck when you paint yourself into a corner where you describe the fifth or the sixth dimension and are asked to describe what that actually is when you've got no frame of reference for it.
Yeah.
But that matter energy or matter stroke energy, life stroke death pairing. I mean, the answer seems to be just in an acceptance, like not fighting against it, and that means not wanting to have all your existence as being alive, and whether he extends that to the holies or not, I'm not sure. So I don't think he says that they've got the right answer.
I don't think he does either. Yeah.
I was going to ask that, and I see that Brandy has asked in the comments too. What was his religious background?
So he I once thought he was Catholic. This is years ago when we first Shawn and I first started doing this, because I saw he was on a list. I once looked up a list. I said, who are some Catholic science fiction authors? Because I was interested, and he was on the list. But it turns out that no, he was never Catholic. But his family has a history of being Catholic. Okay. But he himself never was. And I don't even think he was as a child. Okay. But his family has a history of that. So his personal religious beliefs, he has mentioned that a lot. And he wasn't a religious guy in that he was a churchgoer. But he does believe in the interconnectedness of things. He does believe in something higher. He's not prepared to describe what that is or anything like that. So kind of a spiritual but not religious kind of a stance.
Yeah.
Yeah. I looked all that up because I was very curious.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. But good question, Brandy. But yeah. And, what he's doing here, it doesn't, she says agnostic. And I would say no. Because he believed in a higher power.
If he feels like a transcendentalist,
maybe so,
interconnectedness of all of nature, and I don't know. I'm just getting those.
Yeah.
Vibe.
I would say so an agnostic is someone who says they don't know, right?
Yeah.
But he did believe. He just wasn't a religious. He didn't have a group that he subscribed to.
So yeah, he's not doctrinal, but he.
Right.
When he's describing people, I mean, like this guy Ogden, he can't connect with nature. He hates the fact that he's there in this place. He itches. He's got bites. He's got sunburn. He's never comfortable. Whereas Dan, when he is having his trials, as it were, actually literally immerses himself in nature to escape those. He covers himself in earth to avoid all of this the antagonistic parts of existence getting to him, on a very sort of, again, a little bit of symbolism there, but I mean he becomes very, I mean he's stripped naked and he's covered with earth.
Isn't that interesting? Because you remind me of another scene in the book. I believe it was Anna who was being attacked by mosquitoes or wasps. And doesn't she cover herself with mud? And again, I think that's a symbolic thing as well. Because of her movement into, you call it nature, I guess, but it's like, all of this religious thought through humans' existence is being tossed aside, so there's like an entire aspect of humanity that's being set aside by the society that we're in now. And it's almost like that symbolizes a return to some of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Like a vampire?
No, more like a toddler who's discovered a muddy puddle, I think.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, but this does, seem, heavier on symbolism, unless I'm missing symbolism in his other books. But that's why at the beginning I felt like, he was attempting something here that I didn't know. I don't recall him doing before, which seems to be more literary in this one. Like this is a step towards that realm. it felt like, because he was, there was a lot of symbolism in here.
Yeah, but I think just the whole subject is just heavier enough that you can't really treat it in a trite science fiction way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there is still science fiction there because it's futuristic, because it's dystopic.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no solutions that are going to come from an external source. In fact, the only thing they do get from the external source is the confirmation that the solution they're looking for does not exist.
Right, right, and they're not getting an answer. I recall you, Gavin, saying in one of our previous talks that it would be nice if Simak had some practical solutions. You know what I mean? Other than just the stuff from outside that is somehow fantastical.
Yeah, I want to say the Clifford D. Simak handbook for survival.
Yes. Yep. Call your neighbors.
Make sure there is a strong female character in attendance at all times.
That's right. Yeah.
Let's rely on them.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And Dan, in this book, those two that you mentioned, Pat, those are his saving people. Yeah. Both of them extremely important to this book and extremely important to Dan's survival of his travails here. So,
and until that sort of hint at the end, it's not, overtly romantic. I mean, Dan's obviously having some thoughts in that direction because he splashed out on, candlelit dinner at home.
Yeah.
And had her cook it.
Right.
Okay, so he's not the last of the great romantics, but he made an effort with a candle, and he was thinking about buying a rose before he was drugged by the state.
Yeah, that's something. Yeah, and that second, there was just this line that I just really loved. This is in the second to last chapter at the very end. He just says, then the old solid certainty and the smug complacency would be riddled, and Forever Center would have a rival in its promise. And this other promise would be one of mystery and faith. And once again, the world of men would be ground between the millstones of opinion. I just, I like how he put that, because we're certainly living in that. And I think we always have, it's, that's a constant in our human experience. Yeah. How does this one compare to, what we call the one where they travel to other planets using the mind?
That ring around
the sun, I would say. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I think it's dealing with a lot more elemental ideas in this book than that one. That one was giving more of a cerebral problem. This one is, although there is a problem to try to solve, that problem is, the continuation of our existence. So it probably, it does not get much more important than that.
Yeah.
And I think it's treated more seriously, as a result.
Yeah. Well, one of the things in this journey that I've liked so much is discovering how philosophical Simak is.
Yes.
I didn't know that before, started reading him regularly. And it's funny because the last book we did, They Walk Like Men, was almost pure kind of a pulpy adventure kind of a thing. And this one is almost pure philosophical. And I think he's at his very best when he's both, when they both combine. Like, I don't know if y'all have read Project Pope. I can't recall if we talked about that. I know it's much later it's one of the last things he did.
Okay.
But there's a book, and All Flesh is Grass is another one where I think he nailed it. To me, those are a couple of my favorites. But both elements are there in both of those books. And this one, again, I said the plot doesn't really matter. The plot was just very simple, and it was really a vehicle for exploration of these ideas.
Right.
But in like All Flesh is Grass and Project Pope, the plot is very important, is as important as what he's exploring. But he does take time to look around and smell the roses and all that stuff while he's doing it. There will be a character aside or something where they're thinking about the situation they're in, and it's, a page of philosophy, and that's what I really enjoy that about him.
Right. I do too. I like the philosophy, and I have always really appreciated his just his sense of place that he gives us, his and this novel had, certainly once he gets out of the city and he starts on his journey, we get some of that pastoral Simak,
Mhm.
where we're getting the environment, and the house where he finds Mona, out in the country. I mean, I love that, and
Mhm.
and then I feel like I'm at home. I'm back in his in
Yeah,
familiar.
his wheelhouse, right? Yeah,
in Wisconsin.
I love it. I love it. Brandy says huddled, right? There was so much huddling in this book. You had no idea. Yeah.
The whole thing is like describe the human condition, or how humans are at this point is it rushing in the day and huddling at night?
Yeah,
and then
it was
later,
huddle and hurry, he said.
Huddling and hiding, and hurrying and huddling.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So this idea that you're hurrying all day to get that money saved, to do all the work you need to do for your second life, and then you huddle and wait.
I mean, I think people could probably relate to that these days.
I think so too.
Life being run at such a pace, and then you probably don't have, you certainly don't have money for World Cup tickets.
Right.
You can't go to see the big sporting events. You can't afford to go and see the big musical things anymore because it's £500, £600.
Right.
It's astounding.
There are
sort of Bradbury almost feelings from that, that idea that you go home and you watch television. That's all you can do, because, as you say, you can't afford to go do anything else, because you have to save your money for the second life. But, you can stay home and watch TV, and I think he even says that at some point,
Yeah, I believe you're right. Yep.
Yeah.
But he also manages to slip in a good advert for books there.
Yes,
that's why books are
unlike Bradbury, right? You can read too. You can.
In this future, this is a very alternate future where books are cheap.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, I love that. And Bradbury did that too, didn't he? Well, kind of. Well, I'm thinking, isn't in Fahrenheit 451 where a character's wife was into these soap opera type things where she'd go into her room and
that's
she
all
was
they can do.
losing herself in there.
They watch on big screens, and if you really are privileged, you have 4 screens in your house. Like every wall is a screen, and you just watch these soap operas, because there in that world you cannot read. I mean, books are bad.
So it's kind of the opposite of that, but yeah, in the roundabout way, right? He's advertising books.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, see, Brandy, I wondered, since they were both darker than his usual stories. Yeah.
This felt very dark.
Yep.
I'm surprised that he followed this up with the Goblin Reservation, which is such a tonal shift.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why, Gavin, that one so playful even, and maybe this was very heavy, I thought.
Yeah. Human ancestors are literally shown huddling. Yeah. How much Simak did Kubrick read? Good question. Yeah, 2001. It's right around the same time as this. I think 2001 was 1968.
It came out 68 because they were worried about.
Interesting.
Yeah, that is super interesting.
To go into Jupiter, because we knew that we were about to go to the moon in reality.
Yeah. How interesting. I had a friend I was talking to about Simak with, and he said that I needed to read some Philip K. Dick from around the same time. Galactic Pot Healer, he mentioned, and I have not read that one. But he says it's an interesting thing because this is all happening at the same time, as this current phase of Simak that we're looking into. But he thinks there's some similarities there, which I wouldn't have guessed. But have either of you read Galactic Pot Healer?
I have not.
No, I've not read that one.
I think I'm going to pick that up and give it a read because I'm curious. Because Philip K. Dick is known for more mind-bending, are your memories real? Is reality real? It's like if you push too hard against the wall, it's cardboard and you'll fall through it.
That stuff that stuff does come a bit later. I mean, he had a very he didn't have a very long career because he died in like 81 or something, but he started probably earlier than people generally think of him starting. So there's, I mean, I was looking back there because From Here to Here is all Philip K. Dick.
Oh, okay.
I've not read them all, but I don't have Galactic Pot Healer.
Okay. That's the one he mentioned, and I don't know why, but I'm curious now. Oh, cool. Brandy, that's great.
Oh, cool. Fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll pick up Galactic Pot Healer here soon. Wonderful. Well, good. Is there anything else you want to bring up before we close today? It's such a nice meditative exploration. It sure does leave me thinking a lot of thoughts, you know.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, and it does leave you, like Gavin said, you know, how are you living your life? And, you know, I mean, even in the more micro, you know, we're saving for retirement, you know, and at the expense of today. And there needs to be a balance there, I think, you know. A lot of talk in the world today about experiences versus material, you know, valuing of that. And I tend to agree with that.
And you also, I mean, you certainly have it in the real world, and you have it in the book as well, because everything is so concentrated in this one stock that everybody wants to invest in.
Yeah.
You know, that's no way to operate an economy. If that goes, everybody's pension pot goes with it.
And that's the bubble concept, right? We had a real estate bubble, and now we're having an AI bubble. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So here we go. Humans just keep doing their thing, don't we?
Well, I mean, I think the idea is we sort of know it's there as well, but you can't. If you are managing people's money, you can't not take part in it because you miss all of that upside. It's just all about, you know, you're holding onto a balloon, the balloon's rising, and you've got to decide when is a safe point to let it go, where you can still land without hurting yourself, but have experienced the heights.
Yeah. Tough call.
Glad I don't have to make it.
Absolutely.
Just have
all
to
right. Yeah. So from Why Call Them Back from Heaven, why not go to Cemetery World next? I don't know. So that's what I've got. Excellent. I love these DAW covers so much.
Has anyone read this one before?
I have. Yep. Very good.
You have read? Okay.
Very, very good. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. But that's our book for next month.
Very good.
So, yeah. Excellent.
Excellent.
Well, wonderful. Well, thank you both very, very much. And thanks, Brandy, for being out there.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. Thanks, Brandy.
Yeah.
Thanks,
all very best to you both. May the World Cup go your way, whatever.
Whatever way that is.
Come on Tuesday.
Absolutely. All right. Sounds good. Take care, everybody.
Take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.